Secretary, Madam Isabel Durand, Acting Secretary General of UNCTAD, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to participate in this launch of the UNCTAD's Technology and Innovation Report 2021. Science and technology and innovation have made tremendous contributions to the well-being of humankind. And the importance of science and technology and innovation continues to grow as we march into what is called the fourth industrial age. I welcome the report which has been presented by UNCTAD. It is a good analysis of the opportunities as well as the challenges that face the international community in the development and the application of science and technology. What is notable in the report is firstly the enormous opportunities which science and technology offers at the present time, and the examples which are before us of how various countries, including some developing countries, have been able to garner the opportunities and capabilities of science and technology in order to achieve their developmental goals. At the same time, the report has also pointed to the sharp increase in inequality among and within nations in the age of technological development. And this is a dramatic rise in inequality, even as nations have grown their national incomes, even as the advantages of mass production in international trade have grown, so has inequality. And in achieving the SDGs, our focus would need to be both on progress towards the application of science and technology for development and growth, but at the same time, the utilization of the means available in order to reduce inequality and to grow, as the report says, to grow with equity. The report has identified the 5 A's as a methodology for the advancement in science and technology and innovation, which is availability, affordability, awareness, accessibility, and ability for effective use. These are excellent guideposts for policies in both the developed and the developing countries. As far as the developing countries are concerned, it is my view that we will be able to achieve our goals with regard to both growth and equity with both a bottom-up and a top-down approach. Until and unless we are able to eradicate poverty and hunger and to develop the skills among the general population, it will be difficult to disseminate and to apply the benefits of science and technology in developing countries. So our focus, first and foremost, must remain, as the report has also identified, on those who are the furthest behind, the poor in the developing countries, the poor in the rural areas of developing countries. So what we need, first and foremost, is a targeted policy for the eradication of hunger and poverty, which is goals 1 and 2 of the SDGs. We must focus on provision of education, provision of skills, provision of health, children's education, All these are essential first steps in the endeavor to acquire the ability to apply science and technology in the modern era. At the same time, developing countries must catch up with the capabilities in the field of science and technology. And for that, there is a top-down approach which is also necessary. It is necessary for developing countries to have access to technologies, to be able to have the institutions which can impart the capabilities and knowledge that is necessary to acquire the skills in science and technology. So the creation of a basic network of physical infrastructure, which means the educational institutions, the knowledge institutions, the physical ability, the roads which can connect the cities with the rural areas, the broadband that needs to be created in order to enable all peoples in developing countries to be part of the internet and acquire the skills for the digital age. So unless we have both a bottom-up approach and a top-down approach, we will not have the capabilities in developing countries to acquire the skills and the knowledge that we need to acquire to grow and to emerge into the new paradigm of development, which is the digital age. In the Economic and Social Council, there is, as you know, the annual Science and Technology and Innovation Forum, and you will hear later from Ambassador Koba, who is one of the two co-chairs for this process that will be held in May of this year. It is important for us to utilize all the capabilities of the UN system to make the Science and Technology Forum a successful one, a forum where we can achieve some concrete results to promote international cooperation in the field of science and technology. In my own view, I have identified three possible approaches that could be productive in the promotion of science and technology and innovation for the developing countries. The first proposal, the first initiative is to create a database of the open technologies, the open source technologies which are available, but which are not accessible because there is no unified database which developing countries or policymakers in developing countries or developed countries could actually access and identify possible technologies that could be applied in their national situations to promote the science and technology and innovation in their countries. So this is something which UNCTAD can contribute to, and we have been in conversation with the UNCTAD division on science and technology, and I believe that in that cooperation, as well as in the Commission on Science and Technology, this is one project which could have a practical impact for the developing countries. The second proposal and initiative which I would like to see go forward is to identify the breakthroughs in science and technology which are necessary to promote the SDGs. We have seen in this pandemic, we have seen that when a scientific goal has been clearly identified, which is the production of the vaccine in this case, we have the focused research and the application of resources and direction to research and development capabilities, both in the public and private sector, and collaboration between the public and private sector in order to produce this vaccine in a record time of 9 months. This is the kind of direction which we need in order to address some of the other SDG goals, not only in health, of course, health is very important, but the goals of poverty and hunger elimination, the goals in terms of being able to achieve industrial manufacturing capabilities, the achievement of the digitalized age for developing countries. These are some of the areas we need to identify. What are the scientific breakthroughs that could make a polar difference to accelerating the achievement of the SDGs? And if we can align the scientific and research community with these goals, I think we would be able to accelerate the process of achieving the SDGs by 2030, which is our goal. And the third area, of course, which is the obvious one, is the digitalization of the global economy. It is obviously there are discussions which are taking place in various forums on the issue of digitalization. The Secretary General has presented a roadmap to bridge the digital divide, but I think we need to identify the practical actions that are required to achieve digitalization in the developing countries. And here we have examples. We have developing countries, for example, in China, digitalization has progressed, has been embraced within a period of 10 years. So it can be done. We need to learn lessons of how this can be done. It's not only a question of providing the skills on computers and access codes and the production of software. It is important, I think, as a first step, to have the hardware, the broadband capability that must reach all corners of developing countries. If a child is to get on an internet course, it is not sufficient to have a satellite signal. They need broadband to be able to do what they need to do in terms of education online. So broadband is important. To achieve broadband, you need energy. So investment in energy and infrastructure, you need the roads to be able to connect those places in the developing world. So digitalization requires a comprehensive approach, and there are huge gaps in achieving those goals. There is a gap of finance, there is a gap of conceptualization, there is a gap of governance, there is a gap in terms of the monopoly power of the major digital companies, the major internet companies in the world. Power is hugely concentrated in just 2 countries. And we need to address that and see how governance can be made more democratic, access made more democratic for developing countries so that they are able to embrace the technologies of the digital age, which are evolving in very rapid speed. So I welcome the important report that has been submitted. It brings out very important analysis and conclusions and points the way for developing countries. But what I believe is necessary to underline is the importance of international cooperation, because without international cooperation, without the investment in the developing countries to give them the capabilities to achieve the age of science and technology, we will exacerbate the divisions and inequalities that exist in the world today. So this is an exciting but imposing challenge that we face, and I'm very glad that UNCTAD is in the lead and that your report will contribute, I hope, to the progress towards the goals we all have subscribed to in university. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for your inspiring remarks on the opportunities, but yet also the challenges surrounding new and emerging technologies, and of course the role the United Nations could play therein. I will now give the floor to Ms. Isabelle Durand, Madam Acting Secretary General. You have the floor. Ms. Durand, we do not hear you.
Hear me?
We hear you.
Okay, perfect. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, a warm welcome to this global launch of our 2021 Technology and Innovation Report. The report focuses on an issue that was already critical prior to COVID-19, but whose importance has been even further highlighted by the crisis: frontier technologies and concerns over inequality, or we can promote innovation with equity. With this event, we want to raise awareness of policy options for countries to harness frontier technologies and leave no one behind. And let me first say a few words on the key underlying issues of this report. Frontier technologies include various technologies such as artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, big data, blockchain, 5G, 3D printing, or robotic, to name a few. We know that they are a defining force of today's and tomorrow's world. The COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated their power. Artificial intelligence and big data, for instance, have been used for screening patients, tracing virus cases, predicting its evolution, and of course, developing vaccines, as it was just mentioned. But there is another side to the coin, the risk of rapid technological change. Frontier technologies leave many people behind, and in many countries the use of these technologies is constrained by a lack of capacity to absorb new technologies, a lack of skills, infrastructure, and financing. How can countries that barely afford basic services afford